As Mr. Nenjo said, I'm French, so my English is probably not understandable by everyone, but I will try to do my best and to talk slowly. Konnichiwa. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer of the Innovative City Forum, and especially Mr. Fumio Nenjo, director of the Murray Art Museum, for his invitation, Miyuki Nakayama, and Atsuko Sakai, and all of the team. Jan Joss, cultural attaché from the French Institute Japan, and the director of the French Institute in Paris, Max Moulin. That's it. We start to talk about the redefinition of design. And one day, a journalist asked to the great designer Mark Newson, who used to live in Japan before, what is design? And it just said, design is what I'm doing, dot. So I think being neither dogmatic or corrector of a global system, each designer has a right, in my view, to take whichever path they choose and move toward whichever destination they wish. Already, as a teenager, I wanted to understand why I prefer objects than paintings. In fact, what interests me, and I came to understand it on later, what's the hidden history of objects, their lives, their power, their environment, their function, and above all, their ethnological character. In the object, if the objects that make up our daily lives are man's production and man's creations, can they then help us to better understand our society? It's a nut. And each nut, even the one with the smallest kernel, wants to be open. It's Nietzsche said this. So I try to open the nuts and take all of the information and contents I could catch in the daily life object. They are vectors of informations about memory, current fact, and they try most of the time to answer to our common needs. The simple fact of looking at an object is an admission of already being in the process of an investigation. There is belief and appearance, which lead to opinion, built by deciders. And there is hesitation, the substance, which lead to clarity. It is clear that most of the time, all attempts to escape from the weight of the invisible part of the object have only been reduced to the servitude of use. Official and visible homotype in design delights, digest books, or Gombrician books, or storytelling of the function and the use value. But what is invisible? Invisible. The symbolic value? Behind the use value? What is the most important? The symbolic value or the use value? Maybe both. Because the one cannot live without the other. And what is invisible? The reality? What we should be in the frame. Why a designer should be in the frame. Why? If you want to be in a cutting-edge moment, it is impossible. You have to be out of the frame. But it will be understandable after time. So, what is out of the frame? The consciousness and the sentiency. Finding the perfect harmony, the right balance in turbulence, we are in a period not only of great creativity, invention, and intense production, but also in unfulfilled resolution that aims to reshape the city in the face of our own depredation. We need to build a pragmatic future. Oh, it's not easy to do, very easy to say. But we just have to imagine the possibilities on the basis and basic naked truth. And what is the truth? I took two examples far from design, just from old paintings did by Picasso and Botticelli. And you will see probably, you will be never watch the paintings after that with the same eyes. From the deep beginning of the 20th century, Picasso was under the influence of African art. This period was marked initially by the two figures of the right side of the painting, Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, which was partly inspired by African mask Picasso possessed. It is right on Wikipedia. So it's true. But that is the digest history, the compilation, because it's easy to eat, but it's not easy to test. And do you know that 50% of the story of this painting is concerning by the transformation, modification, and destruction of faces caused by medical disease called syphilis, or is not sexy, but is the truth. The Demoiselles d'Avignon were contaminated prostitutes from Barcelona in the street of Avignon Street. Picasso brings to light them behind the curtain of the scene. He highlights invisible facts. So you can see a picture of civilism, and he starts to draw, to make drawing without no more thin line. And everybody knows this painting. And some of people here in this room went to office in Florence. But maybe you will never look this painting in the same way. After many research, we could say that the birth of Venus here shows the reality out of the frame of mythology, out of the storytelling. Why? The Greek goddess Aphrodite, called also Venus, born from the sea, impregnated by Uranus' sex. The shell is a symbol of fertility. Old Christians religious compared the pair to defilement and lust. Botticelli could not show the reality, and he knew it. And he could not show the humanity of the real model, Simonetta Vespucci. Simonetta Vespucci was the wife of Marco Vespucci, but she was also the mistress of Giuliano de Medicis. That's why he probably drew an invisible, visible fetus on the red organic sheet and implies the reality of the sexual mating. Here, foam is the semen, and the deity of the season of spring brings fecundity. The red is the organic skin. So we just have to keep our eyes wide open, even in design, and especially in design. Tests are standardized using the pills of trends, and yet standardization is not the truth. Truth calls for shocked tactics. Look in order to see in order to react, and react in order to take action. Is it possible to put under light the invisible through design? Maybe yes, with the principle of sideration. This is sideral, but we have this impact. What is it? In October 4th, 1957, the first satellite, Sputnik, has been launched. Nowadays, beside over 7,000 operational satellites, an increased number of abandoned satellites, spent rocket staged, bits of broken spacecraft orbiting the Earth. If they collide with another orbiting object, they can cause massive damage and destruction. Space pollution is becoming growing dangers for cities. We know it, but we don't see it. The United Nations Committee on the Peaceful Use of Outer Space defines space debris as all man-made objects, including fragments and elements thereof, in Earth's orbit or re-entering the atmosphere, that is non-functional. Approximately 21,000 objects larger than 10 centimeters are known to exist. With the population of particles between 1 and 10 centimeters is estimated to be more than 500,000, and the number of smaller particles likely exceed tens of millions. This is the sideration. The principle of revelation. What we could reveal. Deeper underground. Stephen and Catherine on the top live in 400 square feet bungalow under Las Vegas, which they have lovingly furnished with 1,000 other people. What a designer could do for them? Bring light, invent solar lights, what they could invent. And you can see on the lower Annette Kim. Annette Kim is a professor of the University of Southern California. Has mapped Beijing underground city by studying more than 7,000 online rental ads. She found the median size was 9.75 square meters, and the mean rent was $70 a month. The orange dots shows underground housing in Beijing, and the blue dots are affordable housing. Kim says it's hard to know exactly how many people live in this type of informal housing. But she is sure, she estimates vary from 200,000 to 2 million, and she says maybe 1 million is a reasonable estimate. This is a revelation. And there is a third one, the principle of comparison, identification, affirmation, or opposition. It is possible to designers to see the city and the world differently? Maybe yes. We are used to look at maps of the world with north at the top and south down the clock, always turn the right and to never left. Yes. Yet, what appears to be natural for granted in an arbitrary decision, which has become an established standard, a convention. This choice comes from the time of the great European discoveries. While brothers were using the north, start to guide them. In the sense, our hierarchical and Manichaeism representation of north, south, left, right, expand, underdeveloped, are impregnated with this vision-oriented. In response, it is first Stuart MacArthur who decided in 1979 to correct card flipping and placing his native Australia in the center to show us that there may be several visions of the world according to the perspective which one takes. Looking at it, he draws this map when he was 19. So, what can designers do? Maybe it should be hypervital. But how to be hypervital? By being a free designer and happy seekers. Very positive. As designers, we must soak up the action of a society, squeeze out of its failure, invent our own futurology, and accept our capacity both to rationalize things and to experience them emotionally. Yes, with emotion, with affect. We must take into account our aptitude for sentience, with the aim of finding a balance of the Indians' ahimsa. Ahimsa is a feeling. It is of little consequence whether the designer is involved in changing the model or not, because this is for their own free will. Beyond this, many of the designers with an hypervital attitude provoked and promote an overturning of the consciousness. Without claiming to be philanthropist or even opposed to the fashion system. It is a question of options. And I believe that is necessary to accept them all without ever taking offense at such or such a choice. But however, many creative acts are increasingly occurring as part of an altruistic and viable collaborative system. It is not uncommon to find interdisciplinary projects where scientists, artists, designers, economists, engineers, artisans, and those into other fields are all working towards one shared goal. We must adopt a fighting spirit in order to be optimistic. We must come together. What the happy designer seeks is the sharing of information, the alternative, renewal, decisive interaction, accessibility and movement, reducing designers to the automation of their craft amount to reducing them to the status of robots. That is not to say a complete lack of attention or attention deficit disorder. Very many both pragmatic and idealistic designers are drawn toward issues. They have the virtue of questioning, in substance, how behaviors and way of life. Their model is far from the general consensus. It aims to discern the truth of our depredation to take action against high-risk behavior and our own consumption. They seek to react, to improve our day-to-day lives, to invent new ways of designing. They are decompartmentalizers, and they support prospective emulation and extrapolation. For all happy designers, the only thing that matters is the dynamism of their design to care about societal issues and specific causes. How to be hypervital. The first step is to respect and to look back our past. The heritage is alive. The patrimony is in the frame. The patrimony is dead. Heritage is alive. The heritage is the future of history. And I collect, during many years, a lot of innovative drawing, proposals, projects drawn by oldest innovators and designers. Take old innovative research and product as Jean-Baptiste Chabert, here, for example, and his biomimetic submarine dreamed up in the 17th century. There is a bit of Gervain throughout history of so-called prospective creation. Fiction never strays for reality because it builds itself on very real designer and fact, as it has the ability to alert or inform us now for the future. I'm going to show some example of contemporary designers. Three types of cyclical treatments can be found in what I call designology: prevention, treatment, and prediction. The latter linking back to the first to create a cycle. They are forward-looking in flavor, while their properties are conducive to fiction and their effect either active or placebo. Lukas Franciszkiewicz and Daniel Tauber from the RCA did this test of light in 2013. They were working on the breatharianism, the ability to live without food, inspired by the phenomenon of sun gazing, a practice that includes the ability to survive without food. The project explores the possibility of expanding the human capability to directly process energy from natural sunlight for nourishment as new prana dream for the future. Treatment from Japan. I heard and I visit Ishinomaki Laboratory. Ishinomaki Laboratory began as a workshop for the local community in a coastal area of Ishinomaki City. Migai Prefecture, which was devastated by the tsunami triggered by the Great East Japan earthquake in March 2011. At the beginning, Ishinomaki Laboratory was simply a common utility area for locals to conduct their own works with lumbers and repair materials provided by volunteers, mainly designers in Tokyo. Today, Ishinomaki Laboratory is striving to push the do-it-yourself concept forward to broaden the horizon of do-it-yourself design, helping to energize people and the community as a local running independent company. This is a treatment. And another treatment, but it could be a prevention. 100 million anti-personal mine may be found in some 60 countries. It could be a piece of art. It could be a sculpture. This is a symbolic value. But the use value is to recover. The Mine Kaifon project is to prevent the danger of the present significant obstacle for economic development. Mine Kaifon consists of bamboo and biodegradable wood screwed to a central sphere equipment with a GPS. Driven by the wind, it travels over the field where it detects any mines and exploited them. This is a project did by Masoud Hassani, an Afghanistan project did in 2011 from the Eindhoven School. This project is just a solar cooker, a common object. But I show it in my last exhibition in France as a sculpture. I sacralized the daily life. But this solar cooker also protects people and refugee women and girls from camp to look for cooking fuels in the vast desert. The rebels use rape as a weapon to terrorize the population and humiliate them. It is extremely rare for these rapes to be the subject of legal proceeding. The introduction of the solar cooker in refugees camps has not only reduced the number of rapes, but also improved the financial circumstances of refugee women, enables them to recover their dignity as women. This is the power of a common object, of a daily life object. This is the aesthetic of conscientiousness. And this aesthetic of conscientiousness allows me to talk about art without art. And the following example allows me to talk about design without design. Treat your city like your own body and ills. This is what I show in Shanghai in 2013. I did a room to talk about design and to talk about the city without design. Only one visualization data from the MIT took place in the room. So, treat your city like your own body and ills. You have to preserve it and be the right balance with it. I chose to engraving for Chinese Dianzi Dasheng and by Western William Cooper, showing in such poetical and dreamy manner the flow system of the human body. This inner fundamental energy, precious drawn, is confronting an important photo of Shanghai city by NASA, which inner structure is revealed by its light veins at night. And the vocabulary is very analog between the body and the body of the city and the human body, with its flow, arteries, veins. Pedro Miguel Cruz works in collaboration with MIT. He develops the visualization Lisbon traffic. The scientists collect data of Lebanese trucks cab over whole days and produce a data visualization of the traffic flow. The grid in red moving line expanding and shrinking over 24 hours a day. It gives the impression of a beat, of the beating heart. This is nonetheless a brilliant demonstration of how scientific observation can improve the traffic flow in the city, but as well an aesthetic shock. This is a question of homeostasis. Homeostasis is to feel good in our world. We are indeed far from the ideology of the permanence and the conditioning of our perception with regards to the word of comfort. New values for which societies? We are talking a lot about brands, commercial, business to business, B2B, business to consumers, B2C, towards the gift of economy. A new era seems to open up to what many people start to call H to H, human to human. It's a circular economy. If art is legitimized by comparison, and comparison can be done with what is already legitimate, what about design? I think it is the same processes. Making a real and greatness design means anticipating a verdict that can only be retrospectively. And I invent a few years ago what I call semantic design. Semantic design is a part of what I am doing, as Magnussen said. Semantic design is one of the end results of my displacement from curator to designer. From my curatorial position, which after more than 10 years of humification has achieved the simplest things that can be, physical writing from the spoken word. From fact, both historical and anthropological, that shun all dead-end invocations. Semantic design is built on the power of language, between alertness and rambling, between the illocutionary and the perlocutionary. If you say, I'm cold, you mean, please close the window. Ideas of secret and suggestion, ideas that one accepts quite spontaneously in other fields of knowledge and creativity, like the visual art, for example, do not escape design. And I will end by my last installation I did in Milan about Syria. In 2002, I visited the first time Damascus, Aleppo, Palmyra, and I stayed more than a few days. And I stopped in a little village, and I see the two children here. This is my picture. And this is a chariot. And one of the child came to me, gave me something, and showed me how to eat what he should have in his hand. But nothing were in his hand. Mr. Negroponte said a few days ago, doing everything with nothing. This child imagined a candy that he never had in his hand. he imagined the potential of the candy, and he shared it with me. And since this time, I always wanted to figure it out and to talk about the symbolic value of things. I imagine an army of candy. For my old Syrian friend, I create more than 100,000 candies. And the shape was drawn according to oldest sculpture that I could find everywhere in Syria, but also in museums in Europe. This sculpture is very well known. It's a common archaeological shape, very common. You can find this sculpture in each house, each country house in Syria. So this sculpture is a collective memory, not religious inside. And I try to give candies because candies is a link in between Syrians. Dessert is a link I show and I could catch from many years I spent in Syria, especially in Damascus. And I create a lot of boxes of candies with this oldest shape. And I create this chariot, but this chariot is immobilized. There is no more life. But inside of this chariot, you have the sun. The sun is the power of the potential to recover. A lot of Syrian friends were writing to me postcards, and I asked this simple question, very simple. What represent candies for you? And they were asking, writing everything from their past, from their memories, from their common daily life. And they give me a lot of names from old candies, dessert. So I protect this collective memory. The shape of a candy is a design. The common object and invisible common object. The object as a MacGuffin. The object you don't watch anymore because it's always around you. So you don't have to watch it because it's here. You can't see it anymore. And I produce this army of candies to recover. It's a symbolic value. And the weapons, the mass you see in this picture is not a weapon, a mass of weapon. It's just a mass to make ice cream. So it's a mass of happiness. So you have the vision of an object and you have the real meaning of the object. To conclude, by collecting Syrian sweet memories on postcards sent to myself, I try to help to protect the collective memory of people whose memories form a protective armor. The installation is a fictional, functional experience, both practical and symbolic. It reminds us of the strength and the power that objects carry in them. The sugar can repair the skin, but the sugar can also recomfort. So you have the real meaning, the functional and the use value of the sugar, but you have also this symbolic value. This is a language. And if I consider the design as a language, I'm doing semantic design. I don't hesitate for a moment between the generic word and the precise word. I chose the word that has the ability to say something. I chose the object who has the ability to say something. To be precise, looking for the art of detail and consequently the word that gives me the possibility of making work that give us precise information about our contemporary societies, their affects, and their social cultural condition. The act of doing is the act of saying something. This is the semantic design. Thank you. Goseisho arigato gozaimashita.
Thank you very much for your attention.